All right, so hello everyone. Welcome today. We're going to be talking about what is biomedical research. And here we go. So biomedical research is the area of science focused on improving health, the study of life processes, prevention and treatment of disease, and genetic, lifestyle, and environmental factors related to disease and health. So we already talked about this, so we'll just skip through in the last few days. That was with your scientist Google Doc assignment, and as well as your prompt on that, watching the videos and everything. So there's some more pictures of scientists. So we're going to be talking about 3 interdependent categories of research, including basic, applied, and clinical research. So basic research, it's the fundamental knowledge. Okay, so pretty much you want to understand physical, chemical, and functional mechanisms of life processes and disease. It is not directed to solve any biomedical problem in humans or animals. So you're not trying to find the cure for cancer, right? You're just learning about cancer. So how does a cell mutate to become a cancerous cell? And you just kind of watch that. You don't affect the cell to actually make it change and mutate, okay? By doing this, you observe, describe, measure, and manipulate natural systems. So seeing what happens to the heart rate when running versus rest. Those are just natural body systems, okay? You're not, even though you're making the person run, you're not changing anything chemically to make their heart rate go up. Now, if you're trying to see what caffeine does, that's not a natural thing that goes in the body system. So having them drink a can of Coke and then watching the heart rate react, that is applied science, okay? All right, so talking more about basic research, scientists are seeking to add the primary storehouse of knowledge by explaining how processes in living organisms develop and function. So why do we do this? If we don't know about how life processes function normally, we won't know how to recognize and treat it when functions are abnormal. So for instance, if your normal heart rate is between 60 and 90 beats per minute, if we notice someone coming in constantly to the doctor's office and their heart rate is at maybe 130 every time, is that abnormal? And why is that abnormal? And how do we recognize it as abnormal, and what do we do from there? Okay. So sometimes basic research may not start out as such. Sometimes it's a study, like in this instance, a study of the top 10 developments in cardiovascular and pulmonary medicine by Camero and Drips found that more than 40% of the research needed to realize a particular advancement was conducted by a scientist whose goal at the time was unrelated to the medical advancement. So in some cases, you might just be designing an experiment and realize, okay, well, I need to research this, and that had nothing really to do with, maybe a part of it had something to do with your experiment, but not all of it. All right, so here's some findings about the study of AIDS. I'll let you guys read this over on your own, but again, this is all basic research that has been collected over, time. AIDS really came out, the pandemic happened back in the 1980s and got really bad before we actually started realizing how it was contracted and transmitted through person to person. Here's some basic research heart findings. Again, I'm not going to talk you through this. And reminder is that I put on the Google Slides without the video overlap, so you can just look through the Google Slides later if you'd like. Here's more heart findings. So do Heartthrobs Lab. We might do this, but not right today. So I'm going to have you guys probably feel your pulse, hear your pulse, see your pulse. This is something I probably would have done if you guys were in class, but it's harder to do this obviously at home because you guys don't have a stethoscope at home. So moving on to applied research. It's directed towards specific objectives such as the development of a new drug, treatment, or surgical procedure. It involves the application of existing knowledge, much of which is obtained through basic research, to a specific biomedical problem. It can be conducted with animals, humans, or non-animal methods such as a computer model or tissue cultures. If you don't know what a tissue culture is, it's basically when you abstract some form of tissue, whether it's heart tissue, stomach tissue, stomach lining tissue, skin, and you're going to treat it with different chemicals or see what happens during your experiment, whatever you're trying to find. So here's some research findings through cancer study. Their primary aim was to provide results that are intended to be applicable to the prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and rehabilitation of cancer. This type of research is not ready for application in humans, obviously. So during applied research, they're doing a lot of studies on animals as well as other methods, which we'll be going over in another PowerPoint. But other methods, like I said, in vitro, computer and mathematical methods, etc. Here are some examples of applied research. So the synthesis of a new anti-cancer drug, you can click on that on the Google Slides, or role of human growth, factors leading to both diagnostic and therapeutic applications, and the production of monoclonal antibodies. Sometimes when you see these highlighted words, it means I did put a little Google search engine off of it, so you know what monoclonal antibodies are if you want to know. Obviously, it's not intended that you have to know this, or I would put monoclonal antibodies and put the definition on there. So as far as right now, it's really for your own knowledge. All right, so clearing a path to the heart. Again, this is something that we probably be doing in class. Something I probably wouldn't have had you guys do at home, but if you'd like to watch this video on your own, it's just showing a designed experiment where a tube that has no obstruction in it allows for water or some form of fluid to go through much faster than if you had a lot of debris. So the example is supposed to simulate if like you have a clogged artery in your heart, how blood flows through when you have clog versus if it were having no clog. All right, last one, clinical research. It's used to test potential drugs and treatments in humans. The research builds upon what is done in the basic and applied stages. However, clinical research is not always the end of the process. It leads back to the lab. So sometimes you think you're at the end of the road and you're about to get to the solution, but you might need to go back to what your original thought was, because science isn't always perfect, remember? Clinical research takes place in the hospital or other clinical settings for healthcare and directly applies to the prevention, diagnosis, or treatment of a specific disease in an individual or group of individuals. And it also looks at rehabilitation of the patient. Many areas of study exist in clinical research, including but not limited to human clinical trials, psychosocial or behavioral research, and disease control research. If you have any questions about or need any examples of any of these, please give me some form of email, or you can contact me in any way. All right, so this is just a slide on clinical research findings. Things to kind of point out. You have pap tests and smoking. So during a test that include pap tests, those are pap smears. What happens during a pap smear, if you don't know, is usually with a gynecologist. They go in and they use almost like a long tool with a brush kind of end to it that scrapes off cells off the cervix in a female's reproductive region, okay? And they scrape off some cells, and then they're going to put them onto a petri dish or a slide, and then send that to a scientist to actually have them look or a tech, it should be a med tech, and they'll see whether any of your cells are cancerous or mutated, or they look abnormal. The other one is smoking. So clinical research found that lung cancer is significantly associated with smoking, and that smokers die more often of heart attacks, formed the basis of American Cancer Society's smoking control programs. So not only does cancer contribute to lung cancer, does smoking contribute to lung cancer, but it can contribute to heart failure or heart issues like heart attacks. All right, so what are clinical trials? Here is the FDA.gov. You can look at these. This is a video. I don't think we have enough time to watch it in this video for you guys, but if you want to watch it on your own, I highly recommend. Basically, it just kind of talks you through what clinical trials are and kind of the different stages and everything. Right? So that is it for today. We'll talk more about biomedical research the next few days. So after this, you are going to be asked to take a quiz. So if you could please just take the quiz. After that, you'll be done with this section, right? Thank you.